how can my husband and I resolve our conflict over sex frequency with our busy life?
Tell me about your busy life.
Okay. So I have a 2 and a 3-year-old.
You don't have a busy life. You have a bomb that went off in your living room.
A constant bomb. I mean, it's a beautiful bomb, but
it's still a bomb.
It's still a bomb, and
all right, you
obviously
have
we're
3 and a 2-year-old. Do you work?
Yes, I'm a first grade teacher.
Oh God Almighty! So, golly, dude, wow, that's a lot of little humans in your life, isn't it?
It's a lot of little people, yeah, and it's wonderful, and my husband's wonderful. So it's not necessarily a quote relationship issue necessarily. It's just it's a time and I guess like a time management thing, and I'm overwhelmed, touched out, feelings out. I don't even know how to express it. And I want my husband, but there's moments that I don't want anything, if that makes any sense.
Hey, Bree, do me a huge favor. Will you stop apologizing for reality? There's not something wrong with you.
Yeah.
There's just not. Like, for real. Like, you I can tell by the questions you're asking and the way you're phrasing these statements that you are trying to get to the root of how you have screwed this whole thing up.
Yeah.
And you do, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but you do have a relationship issue. Probably a pretty significant one. Tell me about the sex conflict.
Well, we listen to you a lot. So to be perfectly frank, so me even calling into you, it all stemmed from we were arguing about this issue, right? And my husband was like, just call Dr. John. And I didn't, he was joking, right? And so what I did is what I called you, right? And I told him, I said, hey, I'm going to talk to Dr. John. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yes, I am. And so here we are.
Here we are,
yeah. And so we've tried the whole scheduling it out. And he doesn't like that because it feels inorganic and it's not sexy or anything, right? He feels guilty when he tries to initiate it because he knows that I'm tired or that he doesn't want to get rejected, okay? There's times that maybe I want sex, but I don't want it to be a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am type of situation. I want love, you know?
Yeah, totally.
But then there's also times where I'm like, hey, it's got to be quick. I'm tired because I want to please him. So we can't come to this solution. I mean, and the poor man, I mean, he wants it every day.
Yeah.
And I tell him, like, in this season that we're in, I don't have the capacity to give that.
Yeah. Would it shock you?
I feel wrong for saying that.
You got to let that go, because I mean, sex is the gas gauge here. It's not the problem. This isn't about sexual appetite or the phrase I don't like, sex drive, like a mismatched sex drive. That's not the challenge here.
Okay.
Yes, it practically speaking it is, but there's some root issues here that we got to get to. Otherwise, you're gonna keep having all these wars out on the fringes and not ever get to the actual solution. Here's a couple of just high level things, and I'm going to speak in broad generalities. This may not apply to you two, but I'm willing to bet it does. But I know this doesn't apply to every couple. Okay. Often men find the status of their relationship, the barometer of how we're doing, to be vulnerable, to be close, to speak socially, to say, here's how I feel, here's what I want, here's me. That'll get a man killed in the workplace. And so the whole game for men is to shut your mouth and just go do your work.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way they can feel connection is shoulder to shoulder doing a hard thing or sex. It has to be physical, has to be with your body.
Mm-hmm.
And then conversely, for all of human history, sex could get a woman pregnant, which might get her killed, right? Because the birth rates or the death in childbirth was so high for so many millions of years. And so there's this built-in, I have to know you're okay before literally I let you in my body. And you see there just becomes a dance. Then you throw 2 kids on there, and the reality that is 2 kids, which is they take up a lot of caretaking. Like you said, your body's a human jungle gym right now.
Yeah.
Right? And there's only so much diarrhea and throw up and oh my gosh, and parent emails and administrative emails, and then get home and your own kids are maniacs and they have meals and snacks. And that when you know that this guy in my house has a need, it just gets put on a chore sheet.
Yeah.
Right? And when he says, I need this, it gets put on a chore sheet. But below all of that, he's asking his wife, in his new role, hey, I'm not the center of your world anymore. Do you still love me? Am I still here?
Mm-hmm.
And you are saying, hey, man, I have a lot of jobs every day. I want to be wanted. I want to be seen and known and loved all the way, meaning some days you just got to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then some days, yes, dude, I just want to disappear into like an erotic evening. And yes, if you're just using me to get off so you can go to sleep, I don't want to be a part of that. Do you get what I'm saying? There's a deeper thing here. And I don't think y'all have reconciled the fact that your old marriage is so totally over. And that can be an awesome thing. But you have to do the work of saying, okay, what is it now? I don't hear a guy asking for tons and tons of sex. I hear a guy asking, do you still love me?
Well, yeah, I mean, and even just yesterday, while I'm making dinner, he just looks at me and he tells me, I miss you.
That's it. That's it.
And then it's the mom guilt of like, okay, yeah, I miss you too, but I only have this part of my kids for so long and then they grow up,
That's right. Well, and that's scarcity thinking. It's real, but it's also scarcity thinking. But again, you've got 2 people tugging at 2 different ends of the spectrum here. And sex just becomes the gas gauge for whether we're succeeding or not. And so the deeper question is, how can he find some sort of security? Let me think of it, say it this way. It's like y'all are at the beach in Galveston there, an hour from Houston, and the water's 3 feet deep, and he thinks he's drowning. Mm-hmm. And he's just screaming at you, throw me a raft, throw me a raft, throw me a raft. And you're like, dude, I don't have enough arms and legs. And really, it's like, dude, just stand up.
Yeah.
She loves you. It just looks different now. And by the way, she still wants you. It just looks different now. And
how do I say that? How do you?
Well, it takes both of you having a pretty high level of emotional intelligence. And being able to say, in this 3-month span, because by the way, a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, they change so much. Your marriage changes every 3 to 6 months when they're that young, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. You're about to cross a magic threshold where both of your kids can go to the bathroom by themselves.
Oh yeah, one of them has already, and it's great.
You'll feel like you got like half your life back, and then just wait in a year and a half. Maybe not with a 2-year-old. 2 years from now, they'll both be able to go to bed.
Yeah.
Or they'll be able to get in the shower themselves. Can you imagine? Right?
Foreign concept.
Exactly. And so it's all about, it's winter right now, and so you got to wear coats. And he's over there going, well, I know she wants me when she dresses sexy. And you're like, yeah, it's freezing right now. I got to put a coat on. And then you feel guilty, and then he feels rejected. So here's a couple of big picture rocks. Number 1, he has to grow. I'm not going to swear on this show. Mm-hmm. He's got to grow up. You saying I'm exhausted is not some sort of existential rejection. Because I know that he reaches out to his buddies to play golf or to go fishing or whatever, and they go, hey, I can't this weekend. And he doesn't sit in his house and go, what's happening to our friendship? Why don't they like? He doesn't do that. And so he can choose to believe you when you say, dude, I love you so much, I'm out of gas. And then he can go, okay, cool. How do I then honor and love my wife tonight?
Can I add something and maybe you can help me there?
Absolutely.
He doesn't have friends.
And so you are holding the entirety of his universe, and you can't carry that. No one can.
Yeah.
No one can.
And he doesn't have family.
Then he's got work to do to go make friends. He's got work to do to go hang out. A buddy texted me yesterday and said, hey, I have an extra ticket to go. I live right by the comedy club here, and Theo Vaughn's doing a pop-up show. Hey, you want to run over there and see Theo again? Sure, I'd love to run over there. It would be my wife's evening, her singular evening would be easier if I stayed home that night.
Mm-hmm.
Her life will be better if I go catch up with you, if I go laugh and I go roll my eyes and I'm like, ooh, that was too far, right? And then I come home after hanging out with my buddies for a night. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's the work you have to do.
But it's so hard, like being his age, or I guess you can say our age.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare, Bree. How old are you?
I'm 37. He's 45.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. So the question you'll have to ask yourself is, what things other than intercourse, what things give him purpose inside his own home? And that's a question I'll always put back on new moms. Is your husband suddenly living in a failure factory where he doesn't know how the house works? And when he does try to wash the bottles, like, you're not doing that right, or the diaper has to go like this, and no, I need this. If he has understood over the last 3 years, I don't know what I'm doing here, then you get the implicit message or the explicit message. The best thing I can do for my family is to back up. And I'm not saying that's your family. I just hear that a lot.
He's a freaking rock star at home. He does. I have to tell him to not do. You know what I mean? Like, I have to force him to sit down. I don't know.
Let me ask a deeper question.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? Do you feel like you live in a failure factory?
Oh, man. Yeah, I guess so.
Tell me about it.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I just
start vomiting for a second. Start rattling it off. Where do you think you're failing?
I feel like I'm failing him because this seems to be such an important part of his universe, you know? I feel like there's not peace in my extended family, and I feel like I'm the peacemaker for everywhere, and I'm not able to make that happen. But that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, but it's not. Because you trying to keep him happy is killing you. And he doesn't know how to reach out and save you. And so the only connection tool he has is more sex and more sex and more sex and more sex. And he doesn't have a group of guys to help carry his burdens, which every man needs a tribe. And so you got to carry that too. And if you're like most women your age, you've been carrying your parents' crap, your brothers and sisters' crap, your cousins' junk for years, right?
Yeah.
There just gets to be a moment where it's too much. The strangest thing I can tell you is the greatest gift you could give him and your kids is for you to say out loud and begin to enact in practice with his support and love. What do you need to be well? And when I don't do a good enough job on the show describing, when I say your marriage is over, like who y'all once were no longer exists. And it can be fun to reminisce. It can be even nostalgic to think back to the times y'all could just make out whenever you wanted to. And you could get up on a table and dance, and he could come home and be like, like those times were so fun and great. And it's just different now.
Yeah.
And there's still windows of time. There's still pockets of those things that emerge in fun. It's just different now. And so when I say rebuild your marriage, this is when you ask, do I still want to be a first grade teacher? Financially, can we do that? This is when you ask, how do I want to feel when I come in my house every day? Not what jobs need to be done, but how do I want to feel? And then let's reverse engineer that.
Mm.
I remember one time I sent a group of employees over. We were doing service projects, and a buddy of mine was having a kid, and I sent the team over, and we just annihilated his yard. We made it look perfect. And he was so grateful, but he said, dude, that's my one thing. Like, that is when the house is chaotic, when I need some time just to think, I put on my headphones and I go mow for a couple of hours. And I was like, oh man, I took your thing, right? So maybe, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, maybe the greatest gift for you is 30 minutes just doing the dishes with headphones on. And your husband comes home and he's taking that from you. But I don't know you've ever stopped and said, what do I actually want?
Yeah.
Because when you ask that question, then you can give him a map to how do I love you?
But I feel so guilty asking because he's already doing so much.
I know, but you have to get over that. You can choose guilt, or you can downstream choose resentment, and you're going to start hating him, and that's not fair to him. He doesn't sound like a bad guy, right?
No.
And so you have to say, here's what I want. And I'm telling you right now, he's going to have to grow up and put on his big boy undies and stop having his feelings hurt every time you can't meet every need of his.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you're going to have to start telling the truth inside your own house. It's both and. And sex is just not going to be as often right now. You have a 2 and a 3-year-old. It just is not. And if you have a particular kind of sex you would like to have, he's got to just flat get over the fact that the old marriage counseling trope is you can put on the calendar or you can not have it. That's your choices. That's it. And is it Hollywood? Nope. And Hollywood's a lie. It's all a lie. It's testosterone and Ozempic and makeup and lighting. It's not real.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody else writes the words that come out of their mouths. It's not real. And so you can have sex. You can have sex 2, 3, 4 times a week. We got to schedule it so that you can wrap your head around, I'm going to get to drop my shoulders. And maybe I'll set up a thread like, hey, here's the kind of sex I'd like tonight. Or he can be honest.
Like, is it awful of me that, like, say it's scheduled, right? And I get home and I'm like, it's on the calendar or whatever. And then I get home, I'm like, you know what? I changed my mind. It was a really bad day. Is that awful?
No. It's the same as, hey, we put a date on the calendar and then one of you gets rocket diarrhea and we're not having the date. It doesn't make anybody an ass. The only person who's an ass here is the one who throws a temper tantrum like a child and doesn't see their spouse, either him or you, as a human being who's trying to hold it all together. But both of y'all are leading feelings first. And your kids, your marriage, both of you need to stop leading feelings first and to start doing the next right thing. And for you, that's telling the truth. And for him, it's asking, how can I love you today? Not, are we banging today?
I hear you say that all the time. And I'm like, that's a good idea. And we've never done that.
Try it for 30 days. Because here's the thing. I think deep down, it's awesome to have a 45-year-old husband that still desires you like mad. Is that fair?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And, hold on, and you can feel the desperation sometimes, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a guy hanging on. Do I still have a purpose here in this house now that there's 2 kids, now that you're so busy? And I promise you, I'd be willing to bet money in his head, he's asking himself or has asked himself while you're grading papers or responding to parent emails at 8 o'clock at night, why does she love them more than me? right? And everything becomes egocentric when you're drowning. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Can I tell you this? You're not failing. You're doing a really good job.
Thank you.
You don't believe me, do you?
I'm trying to convince myself.
No, don't do that. Don't try to convince yourself, because you'll go mad. I want you to do this. I want you to write down today. Will you do this one homework assignment for me?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to write down 10 things that you are really good at as a wife, as a mom, as a teacher.
Okay.
And I want you to exhale on them and drop your shoulders and look at them. And then I want you to write out 5 or 10 things that you think you're not good at. And then tonight, and probably one of the most intimate exchanges y'all have had since your kids were born, I want you to read both of those to him. And I want you to ask him to write the same things. 10 things he's good at as a husband, 10 things he's not good at as a husband.
Okay.
And I want y'all together to challenge those negative stories. And that's the way you can lift each other up instead of just piling more dirt on each other.
Okay.
And from there, you got to commit to asking each other for the next 60 days, how can I love you today? And it might be, he says, you got to put the computer away. And you're going to have to exhale and say, okay, I'm going to have to respond to those parent emails tomorrow. Or he might say, it's time to get a nanny. Or you might say, I don't want to teach anymore. Or you might say, I want to put these kids in daycare and I know I'm going to feel guilty. Or I want to stay at home and I know I'm going to feel guilty. And I'm going to feel guilty, then I'm going to go do the next right thing for me and for my husband and for my family. Because I've been feeling guilty my whole freaking life. I'm tired of it. I'm going to set guilt down. Unless it's called for, of course. And then husband, listening, man, the fact that you are trying to honor your wife and you're doing so much, she tells you to stop. Kudos to you, brother. Kudos to you. For the husbands out there who have no other connectivity other than sex to say, I'm still alive, I'm still a person, I still have excitement, I still have value. The work you have to do is not to outsource that to other women, and so that's nonsense. But you have to find purpose in your home outside of sex. You have to find purpose in your marriage outside of just release. You've got to find friends to go hang out with and have a beer with or laugh with or exercise with or go fishing with or something. And it sucks in your mid-40s. I'm there, I know. And you got to do it anyway. Because neither of you can bear the weight of each other's entire world. Thanks for the call, Bree. And for everybody out there, sex on the calendar is still sex. You can put it on the calendar or you can not have it.